A high school in Florida has just agreed to pay out $600,000 to the families of 3 teenagers who all died after their principal hypnotized them. Note that that sentence could also have read, who died after watching an episode of 2.5 Men, or who died after each having seen a pigeon. In other words, one thing does not necessarily have to do with the other, or correlation does not imply causation. The principal had been apparently hypnotizing more than 70 students and faculty over the course of several years. He seems to have been engaging in the hypnotherapy type of hypnosis, which I should note is probably mostly bullshit, but maybe not as much bullshit as other forms of hypnotism like stage hypnotism. Most hypnotists claim magical, almost supernatural capabilities, and for the most part, they are lying, either to themselves or to their clients or to some combination of both. Both hypnotists and the hypnotized are engaged in a form of play acting, which is why the best hypnotists are very enthusiastic and charismatic and commanding, and the most effective hypnotized people are very fantasy prone and willing to go along with things just to not spoil the party. It's worth noting that skeptics are unable to be hypnotized, and whenever there's a thing that can only apply to people who are not skeptical, that should be a giant red flag that it's probably bullshit. Proponents of hypnotism claim that it can actually alter the brainwaves of people who are hypnotized. That's actually true. Here are some other things that can change your brainwaves. Touching a penguin, thinking about what you're going to have for dinner tonight, or trying to hold in a fart. Some people claim that hypnotherapy has helped them lose weight or quit smoking, which may very well be true, but all we have are anecdotes. We don't have any controlled studies proving that hypnotherapy can do that. So all we really have is evidence showing that it might be almost as effective as real therapists who use real, well-understood concepts like cognitive behavioral therapy. So we know that hypnotism is probably at best equivalent to the placebo effect at getting people to quit smoking. And we know that it's absolute bullshit when it comes to making people do anything they don't truly want to do, like quacking like a duck on stage or whatever. I should also mention that some people use hypnotism for past life regression. That is also bullshit because past lives don't exist. If they did, it would be really weird that like 1 million people have been Marie Antoinette. Although I guess that makes sense because there are billions more people now than there were in the past, so somebody must be reproducing the same soul over and over and over again. I think I've just convinced myself that past lives are possible. So if hypnotism is pretty much all bullshit, then what happened to make people blame hypnotism for the deaths of 3 teens? I'll tell you what happened. Florida. No, I'm kidding. This could really happen anywhere. People are always confusing correlation and causation. Ancient people did it all the time. The crops failed? Well, you should blame that eclipse that happened a week ago. It's normal. It's a human thing to want to contextualize a tragedy by blaming something you don't understand. That can be actually very comforting. And especially so when it comes to the tragic loss of 3 young lives. I should note that these kids did not all die at once. 2 killed themselves in separate instances, and 1 died in a car accident. In the case of the car accident, the claim was that the principal had taught the teenager how to self-hypnotize, and so he did that maybe while driving. His girlfriend who was in the car with him said that he got a strange look on his face before veering off the road. He had just come from having painful dental surgery. This would be like if the principal taught the student how to relieve stress by juggling clubs, and then he decided to do that while driving a car. Is the principal to blame still? I personally do not think so. If that's even what happened, we don't know if he got some sort of muscle relaxers or other kind of drugs at the dentist, or if he was just in a lot of pain, freaked out, and something terrible happened. He's a teenager. Teenagers, unfortunately, get into car accidents all the time. And that's a case for better driver's education, not for punishing hypnotists. The other two students were obviously troubled. One was worried about getting into Juilliard and was trying to get better at the guitar, so the principal hypnotized him in the hopes of improving his musical abilities. The other was concerned about her test scores, getting her into a good college, and so the principal was hypnotizing her in order to improve her test scores. It's certainly possible that the students became more despondent when the hypnotism didn't really work, but really this is about making a case for better mental health care in high schools and maybe decreasing the amount of pressure we put on kids this young to constantly strive to get into bigger and better programs at colleges. Maybe instead of spending all of this money on some stupid lawsuits, the school could have spent that money on hiring real counselors who are actually licensed to give therapy to these students. And with that in mind, I think you could argue that the school deserved to be sued because these students were obviously having severe troubles and the faculty didn't notice. If the principal really was spending a lot of time with these kids and didn't know what warning signs to look for when it comes to depression in teenagers, then that is a serious problem that the school should rectify and try to make amends with the families of the teenagers who killed themselves. But to blame all of this on hypnotism really is just, it's like blaming unicorns if unicorns were the school mascot. It's ridiculous, and it does nothing but cover up the real cause of these tragedies, which is mental health.